live. Let everybody roll in. Give us some background music before we get started. Let me see how we feeling today. I'm connected. What's up, people? Listen, y'all gonna want to stay around for this one, because I'm giving y'all some serious game today. We getting into it. You're gonna want to stick around for this one. We got some Lauryn Hill. Let y'all relax your minds for this conversation we're about to have. It could all be so simple. Grab your seats, grab your popcorn, grab your notepads. I'm about to try to give y'all $1 million worth of games for $3.99. For now. And we starting at 7 o'clock today. That's why I came in a little bit early. No one loves you more than me, and no one ever will. Is this just a sick game that forces you? Come on, y'all know I need the comment section to get a little live. I need the comment section to get a little live while y'all sitting here. I don't want y'all just sitting here looking at me while we waiting on everybody to get in. Holla at me. I'm gonna just let y'all know now, just in ahead of time, right? So these Sunday segments, I've been dropping these Sunday segments for good. We're going on 2 months right now, and in the near future, we're gonna be taking these Sunday segments to a private location, because I just don't be feeling the continuity with them. You know what I'm saying? I'm trying to grow something big here, and you know what I'm saying? It's I don't be feeling I don't be feeling the continuation from last week. I gotta follow up. I want to see what, you know what I'm saying, how people's week was, seeing if we got this week started off good, so we can see how we can get next week started. So I'm just letting y'all know very soon. Sunday segments, y'all gonna catch 15 minutes on social media, on YouTube, on all of that. You might 30 minutes. But then on the back end, we taking it to the community. Tate Diggs, what's good? Tuning in. Brandon 810, what's good, man? What's good? All the way from New York. I got to know where y'all from. Shout out where y'all from. Where y'all dropping in at? What y'all doing right now? Y'all at work? Y'all in the crib? What's up? Got about 4 more minutes left till we get started. Brooklyn in the house. Listen, I got a special place in my heart for New York. Let me just let y'all know that. Your boy used to live out of a closet during the pandemic in New York. You know, I was a New Yorker for a while. Wake up in the morning, get my bacon, egg, and cheese, turkey bacon. Then come home on a late night after work, get me a chopped cheese. I call it a chicken cheese steak where I'm from. But I ain't too big on the beef chopped cheese. Come on, y'all, get in here and get settled. Cause I got one of the heavy hitters today, and I'm not talking about one of the heavy hitters as far as the nursing network. I'm talking about one of the heavy hitters as far as my network. You feel what I'm saying? I'm letting y'all in on almost $1 billion worth of game right here. I'm letting y'all in and see my guy. This is who I go and talk to. I'm letting him talk to y'all. Y'all hear the conversations that we had. So I want y'all to, you know what I'm saying, appreciate it, lock in. And the crib getting ready for the week. I like that, Tay. I like that. Let's make this week a good week. Come on, don't just be coming in here being nosy. Don't be coming in here being nosy. Come in here, sit down, and get some game. Two more minutes left. Yeah, we can go. Hello. What's going on, people?
One day, I'm gonna understand.
See, I'm figuring it out, people. We got on early today, right? So that we could have enough time to really get through, sort out all the technical difficulties, all of that. Nurse Turn Game, what's going on for Florida? Fuzzy Spirals, what's up? Where you tapping in from?
I'm sure what the balance held. I
don't know why you was following me either. Let's get you out of here. Looking at on my phone. We can definitely make that happen.
Boldest crazy circumstance. I knew his life deserved a chance, but everybody told me to be smart. Look at your career, they say, Lauren, baby, you just
all right, y'all.
But instead,
let's rock. It's showtime. Please hold all questions to the end. That's if we answer them today. You know, man, my guy's time is very valuable. I don't know if we got it right now. All right, so welcome back to another Sunday segment here with the Urban Nurse. Listen, today we got one of my guys, like one of my. I was a little skeptical about bringing him on, having him talk to y'all, because this is one of my network members. One of, you know, when they say your network is your net worth. Well, listen, this guy took me over the threshold when the talks that we have in regards of, you know, becoming wealthy. So I want to introduce you guys to Winfield Willis. He is a real estate developer hailing out of Baltimore, Maryland, representing Bull Development LLC. Bull Development Company is a real estate developer, and he is really, when I say, you know, he's for the people, he's for the community. And the same way I am with nursing, the same way I am with finances, he is with real estate, as far as really getting boots on the ground, really using his sweat equity and really, you know, touching the people. So I wanted to introduce you guys to Winfield Willis. What's up, brother?
How you feeling, man?
I'm doing good, man. I'm doing good. Glad to have you here. I appreciate you coming out. So if you could, you know, I don't feel like my introductions are good enough, but if you could just, you know, explain to the people who you are, what's your mission, what's your vision, and what you're doing here in Baltimore.
Yeah, so fortunately enough, I had a tremendous father who started the company Bull Development 30 plus years ago. I came home from college 8 years ago after being a former Division I men's basketball player. at New Jersey Institute of Technology, and coming home and really coming and reinvigorating not only the business, but also starting to reinvigorate the community as well through what we like to, call community curation through that medium of development. So we do single family and multifamily mixed use developments here in Baltimore. We have about 8 developments going on. By the end of the year, we'll have a few more. And, you know, from a variety range from homes to large multifamily buildings to medium-sized multifamily buildings. And I think one of the biggest things that we do is that we don't do it without the support of the community. We won't go a place unless we have community support, because how could you curate a community without the perspective and insights from that community in particular? So all we are is a conduit to express what the community actually wants to see in the physical world. So that's it. So of course that job is hard. Of course that job comes with some headaches. But for the most part, it's been pretty successful, and we should have, probably our best year yet this year, as far as a lot of projects breaking ground. And then, the sky's the limit for the next years as we deliver all the remaining projects that we have in our pipeline.
Okay. So now I have majority of my audience is healthcare professionals, and I know before we met and developed our relationship, when someone says real estate development, I kind of just associated that with real estate investing. And I feel like a lot of people in healthcare really don't know the different realms within real estate and kind of how to differentiate between the two. So can you tell me what real estate development is and what a real estate developer does?
Well, let's break down just the word development, right? Development is really a process of taking an idea from conception to its complete, whether it be physical, digital form, right? So you can develop an educational course, you can develop a product, you can develop a software, right? Like same thing, software development, all those things. The process is what it's saying. The process is though applied to real estate, which makes real estate development what it is. So the idea of conception of a building or a space in the real world, the real estate, and then bringing it all the way from idea to its full physical form, right? So that's simple as it can get. It's just from conception from idea of a project to the end where you deliver it as a physical product.
Okay. So now with the actual, so you're saying like creating an idea. So what is this idea that you're creating for the community, and why are you going through the community in order to create it? Like you say single family and multi-family, but can you get more into the specifics of what that looks like? Because when you say single family house, somebody's probably just thinking a detached home. And when you say multi-family, they're thinking maybe a bigger house, but I know personally, I have invested with you in a development that you have going on in Baltimore. So can you kind of break down what the specifications of that development is?
Absolutely. So the way like real estate development works can work in 2 different ways. You can work on the simple residential side, and it can work on commercial side. Residential is a single family home. So when we take that specific segment of the real estate market, it's us finding lots or finding subdivisions which people live in and say, hey, we want to build houses here. So houses can be vary from affordable, mid-tier to luxury. And that is the real breakdown of just the residential. Hey, the idea is we see a piece of land here, we can put 10 homes, we're going to build 10 homes. So we have to design them, we have to make sure we go through the process of getting the engineering done. We have to work with the city, work with the community, and then bring it all the way together. When you move to more commercial side, it can be from anything from apartment building, office building, retail shopping center, warehouse that's industrial that holds data centers. It can be a hospital. It can be a school. It can be any type of institution like a university, right? So all you're doing from there is taking the idea of, hey, we want to build our dormitories on campus here. That's the idea. Now, how do we bring that all the way through to the physical world? We want to bring apartments to bring housing to the community. It's a need. How do we take and find a piece of land, bring it from idea to conception all the way through? Now, the caveat is that you can also do what's called heavy value add, which is not what we're doing, which is ground up new construction. It means nothing's there or something's there. We get rid of it and then we replace it with something new. There's also where it's heavy value add, where something could be vacant and just heavily dilapidated, and you can bring that all the way, brand new, but it has to be something that's basically where you're bringing it from, like really ground up construction is very similar, but
Okay.
just you still have a shell of a building there in a way.
So
Nothing.
how many units are typically in these properties that you're developing?
So for us, if it's single family, it could be 1 to 2 houses. If it's multifamily, I think our lowest one today is 8 units. So we'll do anything over, from 8 to, 300, 200 units. So
Okay.
that's really our, where we are, but really it's more where we are in the dollar amount of what can we do financially than it is of just the unit count as well.
So now I know with real estate development, you really kind of getting all perspectives of real estate. So you're getting that if let's just say you're a fix and flipper, you're pretty, like you're saying, you're developing that real estate from new construction until what it is, and we know as houses. You also getting that management side as well. So taking sorry, excuse me, managing the tenants and the people that are also living in there from the back end perspective. So I know a lot of people have a lot of real estate I guess offers coming to them as far as, or you can invest, in the short term rental, you can invest in long term rental, you can do fix and flips, you can do syndications. And I'm a big proponent on having the experience and knowing what you're investing in. So with coming from zero experience to getting to the point of becoming a real estate investor, what do you think is one of the key like important factors into being successful there?
I think the number one key and important factor is how do you diligence and do your due diligence on your own project or the project of whoever you're investing in. So how do you diligence that investment? How do you go and do the proper background on that investment? Right. So that I think is the number one key to really all real estate. Real estate is not complicated, right? It's very simple, but a lot of times what most people fall on is really not having enough information to make a sound decision, right? For what we do, there's a myriad of things that can go wrong, right? It's a whole bunch of risks that we have. Of course, we want the reward is higher than what the risk is, but I think the due diligence aspect is probably the most important in the planning aspect of it, because if you're not going into it right, you're probably going to end up paying for it on the back end. Yeah, you can get lucky once or twice, but from a long-term consistent standpoint, I would say you want to make sure you have as much information as possible. You don't want to make decisions being paralyzed by that information. But when it comes to investment projects, you need to have the information just to know what questions to ask.
And I think that's really important as not only as a real estate investor myself, but also as a financial planner. I see the real estate space here on social media, and a lot of people who are interested in real estate, looking to use real estate as a means of building wealth and creating a way out, but not having really the confidence or experience to back that, and then using the experience or the information that people, influencers, gurus from social media, the information that they know that they're willing to give them. So with somebody coming in who has no real estate experience, what is a piece of advice you would give them to help them with that, to help them learn how to do that due diligence process before getting in the game and investing their money?
Well, it's of course education is important. I think um, one using common sense is probably my number one thing when you're doing diligence is common sense. The next thing I would say is try to invert the problem. Like what would have to happen for this to be successful? If you can walk backwards to where you are today, these things pretty much they'll be able to figure out if it passes the smell test. But due diligence is a simple process, right? So if we can, let's just give an example. Somebody comes and says, "Hey, Ty, I got a 100-unit multifamily already existing building. It cash flows at this. It We can increase the rents at this. We're paying this price. We're paying 200,000 a unit, um, and we're gonna sell it in 3 years, and we're gonna give you 15% return on your money um, annually for those 3 years." Now, my initial question is simple: how are you going to do that? Right.
Right. Right. And the
So,
way and everything that you're saying to me, especially if I'm coming in with no real estate experience, just sounds like Chinese. So for me to think that I'm going to, I'm sorry to cut you off, but a lot of people in the healthcare space, they're looking to get into real estate, but they're looking to get into real estate as passively as possible,
right.
and with as least time commitment, with as least hands-on as possible, because as healthcare professionals, we're already overworked. So the thought or the idea of also having to manage a property, when you weigh that out versus being able to passively doing it by just investing your money into, like, there's a lot of a lot of information on syndications, real estate syndications. But when, like you just said, if somebody's coming to me and telling me, how we're planning on going about getting a return on our money, but you have no experience to be able to vet or understand what they're saying, how is that that's not really due diligence, because you can't verify or validate whether what they're saying is correct or incorrect. They could just be telling you a bunch of bullshit.
Yeah. And what I gave was just a description. I didn't give like, the diligence comes after the description, right? So I just gave a description of what the project is, and that's most of the time what people get sold on is a description. Now, I would say it's a couple of things that you can do. Is that once you want to know how they can do, you can ask me, "Hey, provide me with your documentation." So what normally happens is somebody will send you like an offering document where they have a nice slideshow, where it gives the numbers, and most people that's the furthest they go. That's the issue right there.
Right.
So I'll give an example. If I give you an offering document with all the things I think are going to happen, that could be fact or it could be fiction. How would
So
you know?
offering document, just to make it more understandable, offering document is what specifically?
It
Is it
basically
the
gives a description
plans for the
of,
project?
yeah, the plans, description of the property. It gives what probably the demographics of the area. It
Like a
gives,
brochure, kind of like a
yeah.
brochure.
I was just about to say that it's a brochure of everything. It's the Airbnb profile pic. It's the Instagram pic of everything. And as we know, that all those things may be facts, but more than likely, there are some truths and some fiction in there as well. So I would say the number one thing I would do is look at that document and disregard it. Get the simple information from it. Hey, demographics of this and that. But the next thing you do is you take the information that you got from that, the headings and and then go and try to figure out, okay, they say rents are this in the area. Let me go find out what rents are, right? They say that the demographics are this in the area. Let me go look them up on the Census Bureau, or right, like let me use public information to kind of back in and see if these things in this plan actually make sense. How are you going to increase rents $500 when the rents are already fully mature with all the rest of them? They're on the same line. So
Right.
how do you have a gap to increase, right?
Mhm.
Um, the second thing I would do is ask for what's called their pro forma,
Okay.
right? And not the one that's in the offering material.
Okay.
And the next, I would ask for what their Excel sheet that they did the due diligence on. Now, if they don't have that, then that's already a problem,
But
right?
another thing is, if you're who knows to ask for the pro forma, which is the breakdown of the numbers, the projected numbers for the project, or to ask for the Excel sheet. And when you get to looking at this information, you still don't know what it is. So it's like, I'm a big advocate and a proponent of starting small scale because everybody's trying to figure out a way to make the most money by putting in the least amount of work. So
Yeah.
now I really feel like there is a stepping stone when it comes to investing your money. And if you have no experience or no knowledge, you need to actually go through the process yourself. So if instead of, for example, I'll speak on a real life example. When I initially invested with you in the multifamily property we have here in Baltimore, I thought that it was invest this money, have some equity, and then we're going to start breaking ground within a year and we're going to start getting returns and I'm going to double my money in 2 years, right? Well, I initially invested with you in 2021 and it's now 2024 and we're still in the process of getting things finalized to break ground. So with these syndications, if you're a real estate investor and you're coming in the game with you're like, I got $40,000, I'm trying to start. I feel like it's more important to be looking for immediate cash flow. And immediate cash flow is going to come from buying a single family or small multifamily property that you can self-manage. You can add the value and force the appreciation in it yourself. Go through that process for a few years to understand what the actual now what looking for comparable rents are. Now what the after repair values are and then how much the bank will be willing to give you. So there's a lot that comes into it before, instead of just taking that $40,000 and saying, hey, I'm going to invest it with professionals who develop real estate and not have any liquidity, and now you're back at zero all over again.
Yeah,
So
and that's where I think. So there's two things to this, and I'll give some pushback to that premise, right? Because I do think that this business is, hey, have I done it before? But I also think that most people don't have the wherewithal to do it. So I'll give an example. The large institutions that people invest with, right? That they don't even know they're invested with because their 401k, their IRA is invested with them through whatever channels that they're invested with, could be our capital or whatever channel that they invest them into alternatives or private or real estate. So there's guys that are there that are, let's say, our age or younger, that are making decisions and they've never done anything in real estate before. They just got out of college and they're just putting these things together. They've never done it before.
sounds
Right?
sounds very much like nursing.
Basically.
They
So my point by saying that is that what gives them the like genius that they know better than anybody else? I don't think they know anything better than anybody else. And I think majority of them make decisions based off of pressures that most of us make decisions on. I'm gonna get fired if I don't put the money out on the street and things like that. So I would say that you probably know just as much as them if you look at a deal, and you probably can learn it faster by saying, hey, okay, I'm gonna invest with time, invest with when, and I'm gonna say, and I need to do some due diligence, but I have this documents, and let me go actually look up what all this stuff means. So that's the first thing. So if I get any information, if I don't know what it means, the first thing you probably should do is look it up, right? I think the humility of not being the smartest person is probably important for this journey as more as anything, because you're always going to be wrong for the most part.
Right.
Which we know from experience, right? You don't know everything, and the things you don't know is what kill you.
Right. Because you got to pay for it.
Exactly. So I would say that's the first thing is that I don't believe that these guys know more than you. Like, they know more because they did the work. For the most part, you don't have to actually do it to like invest. So that's where my first thing I always tell people is that look at as many deals as possible. Don't invest. And I think what you just mentioned was important. How can I manage my liquidity? I think that's probably the biggest thing that is what people don't realize is that if you have 40,000, why would you put all 40 in? You have to have an allocation strategy of saying, okay, I need to test the water. I need to make a bet. Okay, I'll take 20%. I can manage with 20%. I'll take 20% of that 40. I'll put it in and I'll make a bet that when's going to be able to break ground. But you should know, I think that's one of the biggest misconceptions is that these things, if you're in development, it takes time. right? You don't know what can happen, right? It takes so much time, and you're dealing with people, which we all and nurses would know this. Y'all see as many people as anybody. People are difficult. So if you're dealing with people, their interest, their non-interest, their emotions and moods, it becomes difficult to navigate all those things because the building is probably the most straightforward thing to do.
Right,
You
right.
have to get approvals to build a building. You have to get support to build a building. You have to get financing, build relationships if you don't already have them, right? So when you break down, because development is the aspects of every discipline coming in, right? We have financing, we have politics, we have community and social, we have legal, we have physical and construction industries. We touch every single industry, right? Power grids, water and
Essentially,
sewer.
you're building the institution that all of those things at some point connect to or help run.
Exactly. So one of the things my father said when I was a kid, I always remember, he said development is the occupation of kings. And the reason why is if you look at any city that's been built, most of the time it was built by a decree of a king
Hmm.
or a decree of somebody in monarch or governmental status, right? But mostly it's in America and other places been directed by monarchs. A lot of the things that we love the most have been directed by kings, and that's what we call history, right? So
Hmm.
when I look at it, it's really because it touches everything. I can't tell you how many churches I've been into
Hmm.
just to get it. So it touched church too,
Okay.
right? Can't tell you how many sermons I listened to just for to help build, support, and
For what
get
the community
ideas.
is asking for.
Right, right, and in the listening, how much patience that you need, right? So I would say that when it comes down to like your due diligence, you need to one, just find a way to use common sense. Second, develop a checklist by looking through multiple deals. Hey, this deal has demographics. This deal didn't put the demographics. So what's the question that you ask on that deal? Hey, can you provide me the demographic information?
Now, let me ask you. You said you brought up the word liquidity, which I think might go over a lot of people's heads. So let me just say that liquidity is just access to cash. So when people say being liquid or being illiquid, if you starting off and you trying to get into real estate and you got $40,000 cash, then you have $40,000 liquid. Now, if you decide to invest that money, all of that money into a project, and it doesn't start to bring you or return you back money until 3-4 years down the line, but you put everything you had in there, you're now illiquid, meaning you don't have as easy access to that capital that you initially invested. And now, I'm a big I just keep talking about how big I am on the planning process, and that's why I decided and I felt that there was a need to connect the financial planning with the real estate, because we as healthcare professionals, we don't got a lot to lose. We don't got a lot to lose as healthcare professionals, and we work damn hard for the money that we earn. So now I feel like the same way that we plan and strategize for nursing, and we walk through our processes and follow policies and procedures, that same intention needs to be taken on the real estate side, so that one, the money that we have and that we've earned, that we saved up, we need to strategize and plan. Okay, how are we going to allocate it? How much of this money are we going to be able to use? And then how long are we not going to have access to this? Or let's keep some, just to keep a little bit, just to have some cash reserves on hand. But throwing everything you got in, and I know in real estate via social media, it's about getting in with as little money down as possible. And people think that you can get into real estate without having any money, when there are risks and obstacles that you'll face that you don't know when you're going to come across them. And like we said, you got to pay for them. So liquidity is very important when it comes to real estate, and like they say, cash is king. So I really want this to be a learning point for you guys, to know that trying to get into real estate without having access to the money, or without physically having the money, can potentially set you back further than it would have helped set you forward. So Winfrey, I wanted to ask, I had a specific question for you in regards of for new investors, right? So if you're a new investor, you you're trying to get your first property, right? Kind of take me, since you do this at a larger scale with bigger deals, because I think that just getting one property is the most important thing, right? Because once you get that one property, once you get in the game, it's you really get addicted and it becomes a bug, and it bites you, and you're forced to learn more. So for a person who's trying to get their first property, which route would you say, which strategy would you recommend, like how would you recommend going about that in the most efficient way as possible?
I would, well, we started with smaller deals. So I'm not, I don't, not too far removed from that, right? So the first thing that I would do is outside, like first I would save as much capital as I can, right? Um, and let's just work through that, right?
And when he says capital, he's talking about money.
Yeah, your
He's
money,
using a big real
your
estate word.
your credit cards because you may need them, your line of credit that you may have got from whoever you're gonna need that. So I would first do that, right? How much can I get? And I'll let you know why that's important in a second.
Okay.
Second thing I would do is I would look at as many deals as possible and start to work on what is a good deal. Right now, the simple answer is one, a good deal is one that can make me money with as little risk as possible.
Okay.
Now, that may be a deal that you have to put a lot of money in, right? May have a lot of upfront costs, which most of this stuff does, but it's the deal, like you're trying to figure out, and I'm pretty sure with nursing, how long were you in nursing school?
2 years.
2 years. And then how long did you feel comfortable, like, with what you were doing?
With being a nurse, I would say it about five years into where as though I felt comfortable, I can function
Okay.
autonomously on my own.
So if it took 5 years to feel comfortable with something, then you should already know that you should be setting out 5 years. So now I'm just talking about after you do your capital and how long should you look at deals and start to understand your market, the areas, what are the costs, what are things selling at, how can I get access to comparables, how can I get a network of people to send me things. That may take you 5 years. So first off, I want you to get comfortable not only with being disciplined to save your money and planning with somebody like Todd, but also being comfortable with the time it takes. The time it takes just to get comfortable to maybe take your first shot, right? I think sometimes what's promoted is you can do this tomorrow, you can do this today, but then you competing with me, and I don't know if that make any sense, right? I would never go into a competition wanting to be handicapped, right? I want to go into a competition feeling like I'm competent at what I'm doing and I can compete. May not win all the time, but I'll have an opportunity to win. So the first thing is raising your competency level and being comfortable with the time it takes to do that, right? And then after that, now that you have the capital, which goes into the word liquidity that we use, you'll pick your first project and you'll be on your way. But the next thing is that when you go to get that financing, the liquidity aspect is what we mentioned. You may not be able to get it if you didn't save and have that liquidity. So the game isn't just getting the first project under contract or getting the first building under contract, whether it be a single family, a duplex, or 4 units. I think the biggest aspect is that once you get that under contract, you've put your deposit down, you're ready to get your contractor rolling. When you go and get a loan, can you go get advantageous financing for yourself because you meet the liquidity requirements, which now may be 25%, depending on where you go. Right?
Yeah, for real.
So that's I think the biggest thing to get started is getting comfortable with that time, getting comfortable with that discipline that it takes to save money. I think the first house we did, I believe we saved like 75,000.
Okay.
Like that, right? And probably had a little more, but just specifically for that, we had saved about 75. And it's like, if we didn't do that because we needed something happened, we needed a little bit extra. I think we need like 20 extra because went over budget because of dirt that we had to move. And if we didn't have it, it would have been an issue, right? And I think that was one of the biggest things, which I think is what you do is so important, is that how do I plan financially to even do any of this? See, most what they call them family offices, which is offices of wealthy families, all of those have CFOs,
Mhm.
right? Every development company that I know that's large has a CFO. Why would they need a CFO? If they're just, I could just put money out and do things. But they need one because they need somebody planning the finances for each project, preparing for the pipeline in the future. They need somebody helping to plan around how much liquidity do I need to hold back? How much upfront cost do I need? How much do we have in um, what will we have in the future, right? So I think that that's just as important as anything, is planning financially to even do this, because and this is from mistakes that I've made on my own. I had to learn, hey, we need to plan, right? Like, we did stuff just naturally because it was common sense. I need to save as much as possible, have as much as possible, good credit score, all those things. But that was just like common sense. But when you look at, when I'm talking to the big guys and I'm asking them questions, I'm not asking them questions about real estate. We probably all know the same thing. They may have a bit different insight from the boardroom or the bigger players, but the number one thing I'm asking them about is, how do your back office, right? How does your stuff run? How do you make it run? And they're talking about operations guys, CFOs, right? CFO, why is that important? I'm asking that question, right? So that's why I think was what you do is important. Why people should think about that more than they should think about the action of
Getting the investment and the action of investing, and that's my ultimate mission right there. Because my story in regards to when I first got into real estate. I was just running on pure capital and confidence. Like, I did what was common sense. I was able to save my money. I was putting my money in the right places. I was making sure I was saving for retirement, and I was creating that foundation. But what I wasn't privy to was the time and the patience that goes into actually investing to get the highest return on your money, versus just investing to say that you're a real estate investor. And that's what I was doing. And I ultimately ended up costing myself more money on the back end, because I didn't, during the time that I should have been planning, during the time that I was working and saving money and educating myself, what I didn't do was I didn't get that experience from a mentor. That experience, I reached out to a community, but I just used other people's questions and didn't really dive into the process myself, and just thought that I would just learn it as I went along, which ended up backfiring and blowing up in my face. So, if I could have done it over again, I would definitely, and to summarize what you said, save up as much money as possible, build up as much capital, and be as liquid as possible. During that time where you're working to build up this capital, make sure you're educating yourself, make sure you're doing your market research and analysis of the area, so that you're as familiar as possible with the market that you're going to be investing in, and how to maximize and get an optimized return from that. Also, building out a network and a community, because within that area or that market that you're researching, there are also other investors. There are also contractors who specifically work in the area and who know the area, that can help you or give you guidance along the process. And while you're doing this research, also, and this is what people forget, because this is what I initially did. I just saved up $60,000 and just had $60,000 sitting in my bank account. But that then became a problem when it comes to looking attractive to lenders, and making sure you stay attractive, making sure you have the right reserves, making sure you have enough for if they're thinking that you're not an ideal or prime candidate, just making sure you have that information documents already. So having that be a part of the due diligence process, and then understanding, like, building wealth takes time, investing in real estate takes time, and you can never perfectly time the market and get in at the perfect time. The perfect time for you to get into real estate is when you get in.
right.
So doing everything that needs to be done up until the moment where it's time to invest, So now that you really have a artillery and arsenal to prepare you for what you're going to go through in that, versus learning as you go along, trying to catch up, and then paying for the time that you would have ultimately put in on that front end versus in the back end.
I look at all this. I look at our due diligence process. It's like a fact finding mission, like CSIs, Law and Order. We're going as deep as we can to find everything, right? I know if it's the person who owns it. I know I got all the information on them. If they own other properties, things like that. You know, we've done a background check on them. Do they have any legal proceedings? Have they been involved in whatever? Right. And the reason why is because all those points may be leveraged for negotiation, but really I want to know who I'm dealing with. I also want to know what this property, its history and story is, right? And then what it will be in the future. So I think one of the biggest mistakes people make is they want to be too cool with it. No, if you're competing with other people who take it serious, they're putting in the time, right? And of course we want things to be passive, but you still have to manage the manager. So if I invest into a large multifamily project or I invest into a REIT, I'm a shareholder of that REIT. I'm a shareholder of that real estate investment trust that's publicly traded. So I need to look at the quarterly statements, right? I need to look at, hey, why did the dividend get slashed this quarter, right? It's passive because you're not doing, on the boots on the ground,
manual labor,
but you're managing.
yeah,
You're managing.
yeah. And
I
I,
need
and I,
to.
but before you get remember that example. So for people, a lot of times when I'm going through the struggles, I post my real estate struggles on Instagram, and the ups and downs, mostly downs, that I go through. And I get a lot of people comments wise who say, you should get a property manager, or why don't you use a property manager? But you know what I've learned just through the short period of time I have been actively managing is that when you use a property manager, you still got to manage them, because they not going to be on, you're going to be getting, whether it's 24 or 48 hours delayed response time from when your tenant initially reached out to them. So you have to manage them and make sure they are doing their due diligence, making sure they know what they're doing. And it's like, how you going to manage somebody when you ain't even managed it yourself? So how you going to correct somebody on something you don't know? So you got, like you said, you got to manage the manager. You can,
Yeah. In the cost of that, right? So and we talk about this a lot in our own conversations. Like sometimes, yes, you are saving time, but to make some of these things work, you have to cut costs, right? And you may need to learn how to put up a piece of drywall because your budget may not work, right? And you may have to go do the truck and get the trash and haul it out because your budget may not fix that. So I think one of the things that people need to really understand is about what some of this stuff entails when it comes to, it's like real estate's a simple business. It's income and its expenses, and then it's net profit. So if my income is not higher than my expenses, that means I'm at a net loss. So how do I get a net profit? I have to cut expenses or increase income. Income is so hard to increase, right? You with your properties, how hard is it for you to say, all right, bet we're going to increase rent? And if you do, you're tenant out of there. So you gotta wait.
We not even gonna make it that. We not even gonna make it that complex. Let's just talk about work wise. We got 24 hours in a day, right?
Mm-hmm.
And in healthcare, we can only work max 16. So even if you use that, what's the rest of that? What's how many? 8 hours? Those other hours to work somewhere else to try to increase your income. It's only 24 hours in a day. You still got to sleep. You still got to take care of life and all of that other stuff. So it's much easier to cut back how much you spend, your expenses, and being able to bring home and get a higher return. I mean, and save more money versus trying to increase how much money you make, because
Absolutely.
when you're only dependent on your earned income, there's only but so much you can physically make, because there's only but so much time you can physically work.
Right. And I think that's the bigger thing. It's just like sometimes people think it's an easy fix for some of these things. There isn't one. I haven't found one yet. You find it, please DM me. I've been looking for it for a long time. But there is no easy fix. There is no easy way. And I would just say, even passively, none of this stuff is easy because you still got to pick right and choose right. And I never, like, If it's hard to choose a husband and wife, if it's hard to choose a college to go to, if it's hard to choose a job, if it's hard to choose, what place you want to eat,
Yeah, it's
imagine how hard it's to choose the proper investment where you're actually taking real risks, right? All right. So in my mind, there is nothing easy about this, and it's never been. And I think what's happened, and if you allow me, let me just go through what's happened over the last 10, 15 years. It's been zero interest rates, Instagram, social media, with as well as valuations of properties have skyrocketed, and the usage of those platforms have skyrocketed, and the people that have gotten on to be able to manufacture it through fake followers, through paid engagement, they were able to raise capital, right? And let me speak for myself. I always put me first. We were able to raise capital during that time as well, right? But a lot of times people didn't have the background to understand valuation, to understand cost, right? So they just did things. And the biggest thing that we're going to see coming up is that people who were really on the Instagram side, a lot of them use what all the old timers I know told us never to use, which is floating rate mortgages on properties, right? And now that they're, whether it be interest rate has skyrocketed and they can't make those payments, a lot of those multifamily buildings are going back to the bank, or they're going to be in foreclosure, which other people will buy. So,
meaning of when you say floating rate mortgages, you're meaning the interest rates that they were getting on the loan wasn't a fixed interest rate. So when they got in, when they purchased the property, and when they ran the numbers initially, and it would have been for a 3% interest rate, which would have been able to get the investors a higher return on their money, and interest rates go up above 6%. Now you're not being able to clear anything. You're actually in the red because you didn't take that into account when running the numbers.
well, you couldn't
Now
have.
you could have.
You couldn't have,
Oh, you
right?
couldn't have. Got you.
You couldn't have known interest rates would rise the fastest in history, right? You couldn't have known that, right? So, but again, if you're our age, like you're like, oh well, this is the cheaper financing, the easier way to go, and I'm planning on selling it in 24 months anyway. So I think what ended up happening is due to our big financialization of real estate, which I call it that because now what happened is everybody wanted to pile through syndications, and people wanted to do large deals, and that created where only people wanted to do large deals in places where that they could have things sell quickly. So essentially what people were doing was fix and flipping on multifamily buildings, large apartment buildings, and doing the same process. I'm gonna fix it up, I'm gonna flip it, and I'm gonna get out of it in 24 months. Now,
They
from
just
what I
burn
was
it and then
taught,
leaving the back end on somebody else.
right, what I was taught is that these larger buildings, whether it be developed or purchased, already existing, are for long-term holds. They're to give you cash flow. You can't get any benefit if you don't get cash flow. You don't get the tax benefit. So you have to hold on it for long term, right? And you put long term fixed financing on it because what you're planning on is that you're going to be able to refinance eventually, and then get some type of liquidity event. Now, what's happened is that if I had a 3% interest rate a couple years ago and it was a floating rate, and now it's at 8, but I was planning on refinancing at 4 or 5, that means I can't refinance. Now, also, I can't sell it, right? The rents didn't go up fast enough, and nobody wants to buy it because it's still at 7. So if it didn't work at 7 now, it's not going to work at 7 when people buy it, right? So you end up having a dilemma where just we're going to see a lot of this happening. And I think the advent of Instagram, the advent of just low interest rates created an environment where if you didn't do any due diligence, you may have lost your money. Which again, I think is not an issue. Like, so I don't want to make it seem as if you won't lose your money.
You're right.
You
That's
can
with
lose,
any investment.
you can lose money. So I think the biggest thing for me is I think it just smart, just how market's correct, is that people are learning you can lose. And I think I've had that conversation for the past 2 years with people where they're like, hey, what should I do with this? And I'm like, I may have this conversation with you. Like, I'm like, hey, bro, like you can lose your money. So, and I think one of the conversations we had was like, because I was giving this advice. It's like, bro, if you got time, take the time, put the money in, and just wait.
Yeah.
You'll get back there.
Yeah. Just not how
Because
soon you want, not how soon you
not
think
soon you
you're going
want
to.
to.
You're
You'll
right.
get
Right.
it, but just not going to come. Real estate isn't a tomorrow thing,
Mm-hmm.
right? And to be honest, nothing is. There's nothing in this world that happens tomorrow, except you going to sleep and waking up, right? So that's it. But it still takes 365 days for the world to go around the sun.
Mm-hmm.
So at the same token, I think the biggest thing is that people learn that they can lose. People learn that these things take time, which is extremely important, which means you got to be more disciplined in your diligence. And I think what people are seeing now, if you bought a property, these comps, if you plan on fixing and flipping today, that's not happening. These comps don't work, and the people that own the buildings, their loans are high enough where they ain't selling for a loss, right? So we've been looking at single family properties over the last year, and they're still at the same price. When you gonna drop that price, brother?
Yeah.
When the foreclosure happened? Where you know, I can get on my tangent, but like
Mm-hmm.
where our wholesaling brothers been at?
Yeah. Yeah.
Where
Yeah.
our wholesaling
Not
brothers,
many of them.
because you can't wholesale if nobody can fix and flip.
If it ain't
So
no
you
meat on the
telling me,
bones.
so you telling me it, yeah, you can get in with no money down. Yeah, fine, you can wholesale it, but and there are people that are still doing it, but you're not doing it in mass. It's not happening like you think. So what I would say is that um people should pay attention to what's going on now. This is probably the biggest lesson anybody will ever get. It's like, okay, what are prices today? It like we saw somebody trying to sell a house for 120. Well, I know 120 don't work because houses only selling for 240. And it costs 150 to put in. So now I'm underwater 40, 50,000, 60,000 because you can't price your property right, or you got a loan on it that's about to be foreclosed. And see, this is why I say we do the background check on the property, because how you know it's in foreclosure?
Mm-hmm.
Have you looked at the court proceedings and filings?
Now
Right?
now I get now in regards to the interest rates. Interest rates are going down, as they say in 2024, and everybody's getting excited over the interest rates dropping. But and this is a video that I'm definitely going to touch on in the future. But can you please explain what interest rates dropping mean to the average mom and pop investor?
Well, for single family residential, what it would mean is people will start flooding in to buy, right? So that means prices will probably go up because it's not enough supply.
Right.
So, but really, the reason why everybody wants interest rates to go down is so the cost of capital can go down. So what I borrow at can be cheaper. That's one. The second thing people want is if interest rates and valuations are an inverse relationship. What that means is that if interest rates go down, valuations typically go up. So for apartment buildings, I would be happy if interest rates went down because then our valuations will go up. And then like I mentioned, our cost of capital is cheaper now. So now we can leverage up a little bit more. And also I think the third thing, which I think is probably the more important thing, is that interest rates going down even at a slower pace or being steady for a while creates some sense of certainty. And certainty creates confidence. Confidence allows for what's called the capital markets, which is the equity and debt markets. Equity is what me and you would put into a project, our cash, and debt is what we would go as a loan. The lenders will be happy coming off the sidelines and lending more. So that's the three things I think are important. Now, what I think is going to happen is none of that's going to happen. I think interest rates will probably stay the same, which is what we're projecting, is interest rates will stay the same for the rest of the year. Like if it goes down, good, but we can't plan on that. We can only plan for what we got. So what we've done, which I think our larger people are doing as well, is that we started to think about how can we cut costs on projects. Because if projects cost too much, the capital costs too much, where's the easiest way to cut costs? It has to be on what we do, how we do it. So I think that's the number one thing. The other thing is can rents go up fast enough to cover those things? Can insurance stay steady? Insurance is probably the biggest hindrance of projects today, and construction costs, of course. But I think interest rates. If you're worried about that, then I think that's it speaks that you're thinking shorter term, right? Thinking long term, I don't really know if it actually matters. If we complete our 8 unit building this year, which we're planning on doing, when we refinance, if interest rates are at 5 or at 7, we'll be fine. But we know at year 10 or year 5 or year 3, when we refinance, if it's at 4, now we got a long-term 35-year fixed rate mortgage at 4%, right? So, but we're getting cash flow every month. Right? We're not thinking about it from that perspective because we think about it from a long-term hold.
Right.
So our job is, can it be less than what it's worth? Can we build it for less than what it would be worth? And that's all we think about. And that's where interest rates come from our view. But for a typical person thinking about for theirs, like, well, am I going to play, I think, what is it, 11%, 12% now to do a renovate a property and then try to hold it, and I'm going to hold it, my interest rate is at 7 or 8.
Right.
For a debt coverage ratio loan, but then valuations have plummeted. So will I even get that appraisal?
Right. Yeah.
Probably not. So that means you got to do what? Put some money up. Put that money up.
No, man. I think this was a high level conversation that I really hope at some point, as I continue to build this community, as I continue to build the like-minded healthcare professionals who are interested in this, who are interested in getting into real estate and using real estate as a way to develop their wealth. I really want to get you back on, have you come back, and I feel like a lot of the words that we were using and things that we were talking about was especially if I were to go back and look at myself as a rookie investor when I first came in, I would have had a lot of questions. And I definitely know we don't have time to get to the questions right now, but just having a group of people who can learn from this, I think it's a lot of words that you use and subject matter that you talk about that can hit home for a residential investor who's doing small single family properties, or somebody who's getting in and buying their first rental property. This is really the knowledge and information they need to hear. And I don't think what gets to me is people can't sit around for an hour to listen and try to learn this information, but we'll watch a 1 minute 30-second Instagram reel on strategies on how to get, structure your real estate empire when you don't have any properties at all, or you only have a few. So I think these conversations got to continue to go on, and I want to be the source, the hub for where we have them, especially because these are conversations when you already know these conversations we had for an hour. We had this conversation every time we talk. We sit on the phone, we talk for an hour, and we discuss the future, we discuss history, and we discuss how to be as efficient and maximizing our output in the present. So man, I appreciate you coming on. I appreciate you talking to my audience and giving some game. I know you're not into the big real estate thing. I mean, you're not big into the social media. I would say tell people where they could find you, but if you can give us a piece of game as an investor that my audience can take away and give them something to think about at home, give them something to think about for this week, what would that be?
Well, it's always, 2 things I always try to preach, which is collaboration. Don't do none of this by yourself. Collaborate with people, invest with people, do it together. Everybody take a role in what y'all doing. That's called a company. That's the first thing I would do, is not do it alone, which we haven't. The second thing I would do is one of the things that a gentleman has really given me quite sound advice over the last, I would say, 6 months, which is, all this stuff takes time. Take the time that it takes. If you can, take time and be patient. Buy it. Take the time, and don't give up your day job. This is already it. If I can say one more thing before we if you, I would
make sure you get this, because this probably what we're gonna put up for the promo video.
Always got one controversial thing, right? I would be most of the time, the people that we see, whether it be developers like myself, we've been lucky to have like an operating company through appraisals and things like that. But there's no money. Like, the guy's not like balling. You know how long it takes? right? So the bigger thing is that if you see a guy, he got, let's say he got 200 million in real estate, that in his structure is syndication or funds. He doesn't own any of that. Because if I didn't put my money in as a syndicator or as a what they call a GP, general partner, I don't actually own it. I'm trying to get what's called a promote or a fee for acquisition, for management, things like that. So when you look at the things that are going on today, whether it be funds or syndication, things like that, most of those guys, you can have a billion and not have no money. Really, the threshold is a billion. If you got a billion, that guy's starting to make some money. That's when the fees start to make sense. But if you're going to bring your staff and do things like that, most of the time people don't have that. It's a break-even business for them.
Right.
Unless they sell a property. So most of the people we see a lot of times, if they haven't sold a property or they're not buying and they have the equity, which means they own a significant portion or a portion of it, then they are not making any money. They're breaking even trying to grow asset management business, which the truth of the matter is not them owning real estate, right? That's them putting money into something and managing it for people.
So let me break that down for you, because we can, even whether it's a management perspective or just a real estate perspective from the beginning, these people that come on and they like, oh, I got $1 million, I own $1 million in real estate, I have $1 million real estate portfolio. They don't have $1 million real estate portfolio. They may have a property that's worth $1 million, but how much equity do they really have in that house? Because out of that $1 million, if you only got $20,000 in equity, then you really only have $20,000 worth of
If that
value from
property
that house.
makes money
Yeah,
at all, if it
exactly.
makes money, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, and then I would say that the bigger thing is, from what you just said, is that although they may have that million, or let's make the numbers a little higher. They may have 100 million, but they have 0% ownership in that 100 million. Now, what y'all would tell me is that's called a job. So the people trying to get you out the 9 to 5 got a job. So you should stay with your job. That's why I mentioned that. Don't quit your day job, because the people that a lot of time we look at, their job is to manage people's money. They're getting money in, they're managing it. They'll get a fee, but most of the time that fee, after you pay all your staff, is zero. Right? And the fee, if we get any deeper, is actually a loan from the people who gave you the money. So I'm always cognizant when I listen to and I understand, once you understand these business models, is that truth of the matter is a lot of this stuff is not as genuine as we think. But the big thing is that you can do all these things yourself, which you mentioned, but you can also collaborate with other individuals like me or Todd to actually plan and do things and learn how to do and plan and put the due diligence together the right way. And if you they can hit me up on social media, Win Willis, whatever we see on the screen, that's what it is with the app. But I just want to that was my last thing I wanted to say, is just like collaborate, have time, and then just realize that like that stuff ain't as real as people think, right? And I know that sounds wild, but I think it's important to mention that those are jobs. So if you have a job, you're doing just as good. That other person. Don't let nobody tell you like this business isn't an entertainment business. It's an entertainment.
Right.
People got jobs, and if they put it up there, that's their sales funnel, or they're just trying to put their presence out there so people can have an update on what's going on. But what they say, what is it? Idols become your rivals, or
idols become rivals.
Yeah, or you look up to somebody and you come, you get closer to it, and you realize.
Oh yeah. Never meet your idol. Never meet your idol face to face type of thing. Because then you realize they're not who you thought they were.
Now I'll say that some of the guys that I have met that are legit, right? The questions they've asked me have changed my whole perspective. Just one or two questions. But when you're a person who only needs a little kernel of information, that's all you need. But like a lot of people that I've seen as well that I thought and I've met, I'm like, oh, okay. This is a little different.
Yeah, right? Yeah. You ain't who I thought you were. You
yeah. or
Right.
or you a dog, but you just in a bad
Bad
pound,
situation.
you in a
Yeah,
dog pound right now. Like
yeah, yeah,
you a dog though. Once you get loose, I know you good, but
yeah.
and a lot of this is truth of the matter is you gotta sell your soul to get some of this stuff done. A lot of times, especially at the larger scale. So I'm just letting you know that I see a lot of stuff. I could go deeper. One of the things, you own the stuff with us. You have your ownership. We syndicate one to you. It say whatever percentages say. I gotta send one to myself, and it say the percentages say. So I'm not talking about it based on. We don't take no fees, and he can confirm, right? We don't take
Facts.
no fees, and
Yeah.
I never called you to pay the taxes on a piece of
Not at
property,
all. Not at
right?
all.
So the big thing is, when I want to project is that we gotta know what's real, what's not, and then also collaborate with each other.
I appreciate that. So listen, moral of the story, guys. Don't quit your day job. You know what I'm saying? The formula is the formula is make as much money as you can in your day job, invest it into an asset that's going to generate you money, and then you continue to do the cycle over and over again until you have an excess of capital that you've accumulated, and then you can then put that to something else, or we can live off of that. But that's the plan. Also, more of the story is make sure you're doing your due diligence, make sure you're planning, and make sure you're being patient, because it's real estate game. It's a long-term play. Building wealth is a long-term play. And listen, let me tell you, y'all think I'm something. But like I said, this is the guy who I go to. He's one of the smartest people I know, especially in the real estate game, one of the hardest workers. So one of the reasons that I get up every day and try to go at it and get better is because I know I got another dog on the other side of the screen that's getting up every day, regardless of what I do, because that's just how he bred. That's just the cloth he cut from. And he makes me better as a person, as an investor, and as a businessman. So thank you, bro, for coming. We're gonna have you back on, especially like we had talked about beforehand, when things get kicking off. And I hope that in the future, you can definitely be a part of helping, the people that are in my community and healthcare professionals that I'm trying to find a way out. We could figure out something to make this work, and we all, grow from. So thank you, man. I really appreciate you coming on.
Now, of course, anytime you call me, I got you.
My man. Well, listen, y'all have a good rest of y'all night. Remember, Sunday segments is that so we can use it to get the week started on the right note, so that we can stay motivated and really stay on track. So again, let's get 1% better tomorrow. Let's put in the work. Let's keep showing up, and I see you when I see you.